I know we don't want to chat everybody's school. We would also get to that answer, but I just want to say, first of all, thank you all for showing them. For those who don't know me, I'm John. I help along back in Philly Magazines, but we also have a bunch of other people here. If you run the Greater Philly Magazine, I'll run. Stand up right now. Yeah, no, I'm not going to say. Yeah, there you go. Everybody here, you can get something to do this. So anyway, you guys, yeah, they were your jeans like you winter. So, and we have some things, but I'm going to hand it off really quick to Adam Derrick from Jamf, who is our gracious host for today for this WeWork. He wants to just give some comments, and then we'll get into our normal Philadelphia Magazines presentation of music. Except there's a couple of hats there, so cool. Thanks, John. Everybody, welcome to WeWork. Everybody happy with the space? Yes. Awesome. So Jamf is providing this space, so we hope that this will work for in the future, so we can have more in-person or tech meetings like this. So if you have any questions about the space or suggestions or anything, just feel free to let me know. There's a couple of us here from Jamf, myself, Nathan, Denny, Mark Delosio in the house. So yeah, feel free to chat with us if you need. If you've ever met me before, I always like to do a raffle. I'm not doing a raffle tonight. Because it's the 10-year anniversary. So with the 10-year anniversary of this group, everybody is getting a $65 gift card for friends at Urban Armor Gear, aka 218. Woo! Look under your pants. UAT not only makes fantastic cell phone cases, computer cases, they also make MagSafe chargers, a lot of cool accessories. So I hope you get some good use out of that $65. And just wanted to say again to the group, happy 10 years and thanks for coming out tonight. Those of you online, if you sign up on an email, I will get the codes to you as well. I don't know if we have anybody online, but they will know. So thank you so much, Adam. And thank you, Jamf, and thank you, company name again. What is the name of that? UAG, Urban Armor Gear. Yeah, good rugged stuff. So we make sure everybody gets an email copy of that once we signed up. If you did not sign up, like if you just see here because you just showed up and you just saw pizza and beer, that's what I do. Look at your email and get so without further ado, I'm going to ask somebody if they can manage the keynote because I can't be promoted here. So you just click this is tap next. It'll go. Hey, okay. So there's our agenda. If you've been to Philly Magazines, you know our standard issue again. Like you go, what's new? So this is C switch. Nice. And then we have 2 guest speakers today. So that first I have something about the anniversary. Happy anniversary. Today's not the official 10th anniversary, that is June 25th or something like that. It's actually, I can look it up. That's okay. But you know, it's after my wedding. There you go. Who was at that first meeting? There you go. So I got to be meeting. Mike and I had to be there. Yeah, Mike and Serge started together. So we're at Serge, and there you go. I'll get some of these. So we have some companies, and we're going to do a really quick. First June 25th, and the slides will be available. People link you to the pages on our blog, essentially. That's how we know. No photos from that meeting on Saturdays. But July 27th, 2015, they see that that's spoke about. She also spoke about iOS security. So our first person yes. So and you can go to that link and the full screen recording is still there. An hour and a half long, and it's one of those meetings. So add a look at the next slide. Some pictures from that second meeting. Second. I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. So just some little pictures there. So you can see that they found those interesting names while there, and some less gray, and then everybody's here. Something else here.
Hair start though.
Yeah.
Except for third.
Next up. All right. So we have the Apple Store social year going on this. So we had our first Apple Store meetup, August 20th, 2015. It's one of the ones they had. So we were there until 2020, which something happened then. That's when we stopped. Electric Sea Shipley came back and presented on Deadpool. In 2017 March, we started our first social meetups. Joel was there for our first social meetup. We went to a club. I don't know what it was. But we started at a Victoria Free House, which
There was
really
karaoke,
yep.
dancing on TV.
It was sometime. Yeah, something like maybe. It was an interesting place to say the least, but we did have a pretty nice food English dinner.
Yeah.
At Victoria Free House.
Things were free.
And in 2018, it was our first art system, so we decided to do something together. Instead, right? Oh, we've never left it. They haven't kicked us out yet. So
And then brought the yards for your.
yes, thank you to Yards for making us.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. And there's some pictures from throughout the year. So yeah, example. Two. This was at Three Monkeys. That was when we tried a different place. That'd be great.
Oh, that was a hookah bar.
Yes.
Still in back.
Now. It's so. Next slide, please. I think there's more pictures out there. So and then of course Yards where we use, we have so many pictures of all of the yards. So it's just some here. I did it really kind of choice because I know she would not want to be on there and she did not want to please. Yes,
Christos, you are everywhere.
Christos there. Since I think our latest when they did it, so great time, good times, and so next slide. And then, of course, we went virtual. So last in-person meetup was February 2020. We took a little bit of a hiatus there for some reason. We decided, hey, let's just do virtual meetup. So we started that in March 2021. Joel, you were a guest again. I think you were talking about a whole bunch of tokens and stuff. You were talking about Nomad 2.
Yeah,
Something else.
funny thing. Sitting with the token presenter.
Yeah. And then we can continue our virtual meetup to this day if we need to. But it's a little easier for people to get here because everybody's to get everybody here. So next slide, please. Some pictures from our virtual meetups. Dennis, there's one picture of you there. Your outfit. Yeah, and there's Joel doing his presentation. So yeah, we still do these every so often, and if we get there's not people from all over the place. So they're fun. So next slide. So we just want to give over the years, we have a lot of people that want, a lot of people that became boards and stuff that we probably back here. So Jamf provided us for pizza and soda for many, many years at the Apple Store, and including going to we every month when we did a meeting, they were just like, hey, you want to speak this out? Yeah, start switching out to hoagies and people miss the pizza. Still, of course, for so long. That was a great event to do. Yard Break for being our social host since 2018. I don't think anybody is here from Yards or Jamf, so that's a good. All of our former speakers and hosts, they're here, but there's there's others that are out there that are not here that are probably hopefully online, but maybe not. And then next slide. Just all of you for sticking with us throughout the years and coming to all these events and being part of the community. We would not be in this room without everybody can come and chit chat, and talk about something similar, right? That we're all about. So just, thanks everybody for being here. Glad you're here for the ride. We're glad you're here for the 10th anniversary. And hopefully we can do this for another 10 years. Serge, sure. We're doing on 10 years. So
I will be board member emeritus.
yeah, if anybody's interested in doing what we do, please come talk to us. This picture's from PSU, I think 2023. So this was us going up against Pittsburgh. We have more people. Woo! Yeah, thanks everybody for coming. And with that, we're going to go to the next slide and talk about this. We're going to get into our normal stuff. So you're gonna have to hit the next slide.
Hit a clicker.
So I wish I had a clicker. So what's new?
Where's the rest?
Again, if you have been to one of our meetups, this is a normal thing. Sequoia 15.2 to 15.5 came out since the last minute. Lots of new releases, all the AI,
Please
all
stop,
bugs.
please stop the pain.
It will stop
Let's see.
when 16 comes out.
You know, it's
Wait, touch. It's gonna be 27. Oh, 27. So if you have, get on your betas, which I didn't realize 15.6 was out. Holy cow, which should I be?
It's out?
Or betas out. So I feel on it. So if you're, you know, anyway, really Sequoia and not in too much pain. Next slide, please. Combine these two slides because cares about these ones, but no. Snow and Ventura is ready to set 0.7, 0.6. Lots of scary bug fixes. Hopefully you're not running Ventura. Not running Ventura.
Please leave.
Please. The snow should be. I would say that's 5%. And look, if my org can go N, you then you can too. Excellent. I have some interest. We're going to keep this short. Management Slack is also celebrating 10-year anniversary. Foundation. Hi, John. Hi, John. We have some swag. We have some cool swag on the store. If you haven't seen it, it's this. It's what I'm wearing. It has beads on it, but it's what I'm wearing. We have this. We have a single color one. You can get this on a hoodie. You can get this on a different type of shirt. It's really cool stuff. We also have a whole bunch of other just weird swag. Then we switched over to a new store. So that's awesome. And if anybody has a membership card, come see Tom or I later. And so if you also have a card on your next one, you can also get a card. Yes, Tom was raising his hand. Yeah, Tom Rich.
Hello, everybody. Quick note of thanks to everybody who has backed the foundation during the last 4 years of our existence and the first 10 years of the back admin Slack. I said the first 10 years because we're going to have a long and rich history as we go forward as a community. One of the things we are doing during the month of May is that we are hoping to get the 10 for 10 campaign. We are really looking for folks to help us back the Slack. Our Slack bills went up by a lot this year, but in exchange for that, we actually get a lot better service from our friends at Slack. We now are actually paying for all of the monthly users that we have, which as of the other day was just over 10,000 users on a monthly active basis, which means we have to pay for each and every one of them.
Yeah.
Our Slack bill for the very first time will be 6 figures next year. Working on other methods to lower that amount, but we can use help as we go through this process. We got a session that will be coming online for MacDuck about the next 5 years of that academics Slack. And the MacAdvance Foundation will also have a lot more going forward. You can join the MacAdvance Foundation and not to mention get discounts on merch by going to macadvance.org/join. And we would love to add more people to our 10 for 10 campaign. The goal is $10 a month because we all get that much value out of the work that we do on the MacAdvance Slack. There's so much knowledge there. There's so much that is driven through that space. And that covers your seat and the seats of 7 others every month. And that is deeply appreciated. And if we can push that forward over time, you get a really cool digital membership card. So for example, it showed up on my because John put in the address for the meetup tonight. And so you get a little digital membership card and you can tap on it, you get your membership card. Show me your membership card and you get cool.
Yeah.
Yep. But thank you. I appreciate you very much.
I'm playing cameraman and presenter right now, so. Yeah. Hopefully I'm in frame. Hopefully we'll see. Anyway, also, if you like hats, this is a cool hat. I really like it. Yep, got one. So, it's one of the new items right out of the hat from Costco. So, and another big one, actually, Monkey 7. It says beta is now, but so is beta. Okay. Okay.
I had beta 1 on there and I was like, no, 2. No.
Okay. So Greg's busy, but Swift rewrite coming to Monkey, which is quite awesome. So maybe we'll have to do another deep dive into monkeys when it gets done. I think 2 of them for us over here. So yeah, it'll be awesome to see. So I'm gonna go next. Oops. Conferences. So YVR is Gina, access submitted, oh my goodness. Objective by the C, all those registrations open, so register, go to conference. If you haven't been to PSU, PSU or Jay out there, awesome to go to, so, and Tom, do you have any news on any upcoming things for the foundation on those yet or no?
We have chosen our grant recipients for States. And we also have two speaker grants for the very first time. People have never spoken at a conference before. That's part of our Charles S. Edge Junior grant program. That's more speakers in the building.
Yes,
I don't have anything interesting to speak about, but
so if you've never spoken before, and you really kind of want to, or even if you're like, I don't know if I want to apply.
Apply, talk to us. What are your expenses to attend the conference? Including mentorship during the talk preparation part. So that you get a good experience of giving your first talk.
Yes. So, and if you are ever on the fence or if you're nervous about something, there's tons of people to talk to, so. I've got this slide. So yeah, and then the videos are on Frank's World and MacBook. I'm actually got MacBook soon, that just ended. A lot of conferences coming up, so
go do them.
yeah, go do them, please.
Can I say something? I have rooms, reserved at the Penn Stater. Only I don't think I can go to Penn State for many reasons. I want to go, but it's the question of paying for it. So I'm still trying to work that out. But if I can't, you guys, and someone needs a room, let me know, because the Penn Stater really fills up quick.
Already built.
So probably already filled up. I actually had to get a room for the first night and then transfer to a room for the next 3 nights. So if you're in to be good, so get in touch with me. I'm still trying to figure out a way to get there.
Dave Goldberg, Temple Dave on Slack.
Yeah, Temple underscore Dave on Slack, still in touch with me. And, if I'm not going, I'll be there.
I'm hoping to go to PSU, so. Are you going? I'm hoping to go. Well. And last, before we get to our guests, we want to send a big thank you out to, for today. Jamf and Fleet Mackin Foundation, so Dan for providing the space, thank you so much. Fleet and the Mackin Foundation, this is part of the Fleet Mackin Foundation speaker series. Essentially, Fleet is gracious enough to send out, to pay for one of our speakers, our speaker to come to speak on this.
To me.
Yeah,
Pay
paying for the travel to get out here and those of you, if you are a part of another group, maybe that's not affiliate group, and you are interested in getting in on this, hit me up. So yes, thank you very much to all three of them for everything today. So
These up front just till we're not.
that's fine. Well, we will have, if you hit the next slide. Our first guest speaker will be Walter from BDM, and he'll be doing a little bit of some stuff that they're working on. We'll get some chairs up here and we'll get you meetings next spring.
Yeah.
There's an extra line.
Is it 2F?
Yes. There's also an extra line.
Oh, yeah, I might just do that. That's.
There's a lot better headroom there. Trying to give you a good headroom. This was like.
Oh, yeah, no, I got
Wait
it.
for like weeks.
And let me disconnect from that thingy.
Yeah.
Try to disconnect from that thingy.
It should start recording.
Stop. It should still be recording. I hope it is.
What is there?
Yeah, it says pause or stop recording, so.
Source or something.
What's that?
Change the source or.
Hey, Eric. Eric's online. How's the sound and video? Is it okay?
The sound is great. The video is a little shaky,
Yeah,
but it's good.
all right. Thank you. Not working. Oh, there it goes.
On your beach.
Yeah, I am involved. A keynote.
Okay.
So if I could just kill keynote, which that's easy to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta stop my share. That's what it is.
Yes. And,
Kill keynote. It's keynote, whatever. You know, sucks.
you'll probably need that though. Over.
We'll get to it. Is it not working?
Oh, let's see if I can try to drive.
Technical difficulties.
Of course.
Somebody call Mac out.
Nope, nope.
Hello, Eric. You can't hear us. Can't see me.
I will, yes, I can see there was some.
But I know, yeah, I knows what it was.
Thank you.
Nobody feels my presence.
All right, anybody that is online, I will say that we'll get the slides to you. I know it's gonna be hard to see, but that's okay. We'll figure it out.
Hi, I'm Brock. Hey. I have been to the Philly Mac at meetup several times. I live in the area. Moved here a couple years ago. I work for Fleet now. Very glad to be here. When I found out about this, I was gonna come anyway. I was very excited. And then I found out that I was gonna be speaking at an event where Joel Rennich was gonna be speaking. So I'm like, this is awesome. Everybody's gonna hear a really memorable, useful talk from one of the most experienced, respected Mac administrators in the
And
community.
that's exactly why I'm.
No, and then there will be another talk. This is the other talk. Just want to make that very clear. All right, so I'm going to be talking about something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. It's something that we talk a lot about at Fleet, but I don't intend for this to be something that's producty. I want it to be something that is applicable to everyone here, no matter what product you're using. I really just want to talk about the philosophy of this. And here we go. Who am I? Brock Walters. I am a custom solutions architect at Fleet. Some of you might know me from Jamf. I worked at Jamf for quite a while. Hi, Mark. And I taught the certification classes at Jamf for about 5 years. So I've met a lot of people in the Mac admins community that way. I love these events. I think they're awesome. Very glad to be here. This is something that we talk about a lot at Fleet, is unpacking the why. And it's kind of a strange phrase, but what this means is we really try to dig into the details of why people are doing something. A lot of times when you're in this field and doing this kind of work, it's very, very easy to get lost in the details. Very, very easy to get down in so deep into something that you kind of lose the philosophy of why are we doing this? What would be the reasons we would try to do something? So that's what that's the goal of this talk, is to maybe back out of that a little bit, look at something from a little bit higher level and talk about GitOps as a philosophy, if that's an okay thing to do. What do we even mean by that? Well, to me, this means two things. One, we're talking about having an impact on change management in your organization. Change management is hard. It's hard everywhere. It's hard if your organization is simple. It's hard if your organization is complex. We'll talk more about that in a second. The second part of this, and why GitOps I think is advantageous for engineering workflows, is accountability. Doing your work in the open, making sure that everyone can actually see your work, having a fair, equitable way of sharing the work. All of those things become available to you when you're using GitOps workflows in ways that, if you aren't really available. If you're going to take a picture of a slide, and I will make these slides available, if there's nothing in here that's secret, they'll be posted somewhere. But these are pretty good resources. If you're just looking to get into what is GitOps, what is this word, what does it mean? The GitLab resources are really great. This GitHub blog is really, really awesome. And there's also a really good article on the Puppet website about GitOps and kind of using it for dev ops workflows if you're interested in studying and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Okay. What do I mean when I say change management? Organizations create change management processes and procedures to do several things usually. One is to comply with laws and regulations. You might work at a financial institution. You might work at a hospital. You might have laws and things you have to comply with that you don't have any choice to work around. Organizations create change management processes to limit liability. They create processes to protect their investments and assets. But as we all know in this room, cures can sometimes be worse than diseases. And change management processes can be very, very difficult. You can run into things like dogma, just old school, for lack of a better word, nonsense, manual data entry in forms, long, hard meetings with your security team. or they tell you that you have to update 80% of your computers. Why is it 80?
Just kill me.
Just
What about
update.
the other 20? Physical pain, that might just be me.
No, that's when you meet secure.
Okay, so, uh. And here's the thing, software solutions and integrations are getting more complex all the time. Scale complexity is very difficult. And you might be thinking, okay, well, you're talking about doing something that's actually maybe adding complexity to your workflows, because I hear this GitOps thing is pretty hard. But the way I see it, this is a way of scaling complexity. It's a way of digesting complexity. And once you have these kinds of automations in place, it actually makes things easier, not harder. I think everybody in this room would agree. I don't think I would have to sell this to anybody here, but I would probably have to sell it to people in your org. Who agrees with this statement? Client platform engineering is almost or just as complex as any other type of engineering in your organization. Yeah, and a lot of people don't believe that necessarily.
My marriage.
So the endpoints are becoming more complex. The things people want to do with them are more complex. Everybody wants to do everything with certificates. Endpoints are becoming more complex all the time. So believe it or not, we have customers. I talk to customers a lot that are just starting their device management journey. It's wild. They don't know what they don't know. So they don't know how hard this is going to be. And for experienced client platform engineering teams, they're trying to do really hard stuff. Stuff that's very difficult to do just by clicking buttons. Right? So what does that all mean? To me, what GitOps solves for, in addition to those problems that you may have in your org, is accountability. Managing end user devices in any environment should be observable, meaning your work is in the open, everyone can see it, everyone can share it, everyone can know what you're doing. If something bad happened, everybody can see how or why the bad thing happened. It should be reversible. How do I unclick all the buttons I clicked that made the bad thing happen, right? If you have a way of reversing those changes that's automated, you don't have to worry about unclicking all the buttons. Right? Let's see. And that would Command Z, yes, perfect. End of talk. And then your changes should be repeatable. And what I mean by repeatable is you should be able to use automation to make your work easier. Once you find ways of doing things that work, you should be able to do them again and again with a limited amount or low amount of maintenance. All right, some examples. At Fleet, we use GitHub. And we use GitHub for pretty much everything. Here's an example of a pull request where we were managing some labels, and labels is kind of like a scoping object in Fleet. This is not about the Fleet product, but this is just to explain what it is. What's good about this pull request? Well, one thing is that it has a descriptive commit message. That's very helpful. And then jokes are always good when you're approving PRs. But this is what we mean by observability, is that everybody can see everybody else's work. You're not having to dig into some access log to figure out what happened. You might dig into the access log and still not see what you were looking for, right? Who did the bad thing? And that's not necessarily what you're looking for, it's who to blame. But if you can find the problem or the person that maybe submitted the PR that caused the problem, you can fix the problem. That's what observability means. It's not about blaming, it's about fixing. Here's another example that has nothing to do with managing the Fleet product. We use GitHub for our documentation. So when this document got cleaned up the other day that I edited heavily, I took another pass at it and I cleaned up some minor typos and stuff. There's no reason why you can't use Git right now in your organization to do this kind of work. Manage documentation. Maybe you just have your script library in there. That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the script library in your product. It's just a way of managing stuff that's easy and out in the open and works for everybody in your org. Reversible. So here's an example of a place where this pull request had to be redone. Now, this does happen to be a configuration for a specific feature in our product, for the calendar feature, where we can send a calendar event to a user that needs some sort of maintenance fix. Turns out the key, I don't know if you can see it, it's very, very small text, but the key for that event is not calendar event enabled, it's calendar events enabled. This was totally my fault. I approved it and it was wrong. I didn't see the mistake. This is what I mean by reversible. If you track your changes this way, you can undo them this way. And it's brilliant because what are you doing? You're just sending messages to each other and approving them. All the work is in the open. And it's really an awesome way to get things done and to be assured that the work that you're doing is good. Last example. We are using GitOps and GitHub Actions to do some pretty fancy stuff. I know we were just talking about Monkey. By the way, if you go back and watch Greg's talk last year at Maxis Admin, I believe it was all about transitioning from scripting languages to application languages. And I asked him, after, like, are you going to be rewriting this in Swift? And he was kind of like, burr. So it's very exciting.
Right. All the time.
Yes. But it was very exciting to see that that it's going to Swift. So we are doing something that I feel is kind of a replacement for Monkey. And I'll try to explain it very briefly. We're using GitHub Actions in a way that we're watching a version out on the internet of some app, in this case, 1Password. We're checking to see if that is going to update. When it updates, a PR is created to allow someone at Fleet to approve an action. And what that action is a version, uptaking a version string in a policy. A policy is what we use to check the state of a device, right? So there's a version string in a SQL query that lives in a policy. The only way to update that version string is to go in there and type it in or make an API call for it. But we've got this automation set up so that if the version string updates out on the internet, someone gets a pull request to update that version string in the product. When that happens, the policies that are checking for state on computers start to fail. Meaning this computer is supposed to have version XYZ of this app. It no longer has version XYZ. It's supposed to have version 1.2.3. When those policy failures start to happen, the applications start to install from that same place where we're linking to the URL out on the internet. If what I'm describing sounds like how Monkey works, yes. So we're using automations just with the Fleet product and the API and YAML configurations and GitOps to achieve that same result. And again, this is not to say this isn't meant to be about Fleet. I'm just saying GitOps is extremely powerful. And you can do a lot of incredible things with workflows like this, probably with your product that you're using today that you might not even be aware. Okay. So, accountability. Managing end user devices in any environment should be observable. What do I mean by that? Commit messages, peer reviews, pull requests, having code owners that are responsible for the stuff. Reversible, using APIs and CLIs versus clicking things that are hard to unclick. Version control, being able to roll your changes back easily. Repeatable, configuration as code for the MDM console state and the device state. Keeping something up to par with what you've defined in code in your repo. It's incredibly powerful. I'm not sure I realized just how powerful it was until I started using it in Fleet in this way. And of course, automation, all based on that GitHub Actions. Here's the slide with the big number. 450 million GitHub repos. How is that relevant? Well, a lot of GitHub repos are garbage.
Just look at mine.
But a lot of
man.
But a lot of them aren't. And why are people using this tool? Because it's a really cool way to store stuff, to automate stuff, to build stuff. It's an incredible resource on which to build. And things that you can do with automation and a GitHub repo are really just kind of mind-boggling. And if you haven't played with it or checked it out, you should. And that's what I really wanted to talk about. Using GitOps can improve the efficiency of and accuracy of any engineering work, but why not use it for device management, right? You guys probably have the ability to use this with your tools today in some fashion. I urge you to explore it. Now, yeah, same thing I just said. Shameless plug. We offer a free GitOps workshop. We may have already done one in your area. We've done one here yet. We did one in New York pretty recently, but we've done it in Boston. We've got one in Toronto coming up, Chicago coming up. Where else? Oh, by the way, no pressure. Joel's here. Also, my CEO sitting right there. No big deal. And if you want to, if you want to talk to someone about Fleet, you should talk to Mike because Mike loves talking to people and he's here. So, if you want to find out where we're doing these GitOps workshops, and they're awesome. I mean, they are based on Fleet, but they're made. This training course is made for beginners. You don't have to have any prior knowledge coming in. There are a few prerequisites. It's nice to have a GitHub account set up when you come in. But this workshop is a really, really awesome way of getting your feet wet on these kinds of workflows if you've never done it before. And I highly urge you to find out if there's one in your area. I should make sure that we get to do one here in Philadelphia. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'll see what I can do. But the easy button to find those is fleetdm.com/meetups. Does anyone have any questions about anything I talked about? And you can always talk to us anytime after this. Like, doesn't have to be a formal question and answer section. I just want to know if anybody does. All right. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us. Really glad to participate. Glad to be here. Thanks.
Uh,
Here, I did find out that the PC shuts off at 5. So
next
time,
we're getting out of this place. Give me 1 sec. I'm not gonna spend the whole time doing this because it's gonna take forever, but. Or is it? Or is it, John? It isn't.
Updated headshot.
Is this a new one? I don't know. Is it?
The classic Joel picture.
Classic Joel, yeah.
That was headshots in a truck in Austin.
So,
Come to them, we'll come to you.
yeah,
Just you for a play. It's like, you're acting, you're playing Larry again, Ross, you go.
yeah. Thank you very much for that. If anybody wants to talk to me. And now the guest that I guess everybody might be waiting for.
The guest that won't stop coming.
Yeah, you've been, this is your third or fourth now, so you're second or third person, so. Please graciously paid for Joel to fly up here to speak on a function of his own choosing. Yeah, so we don't know what this is, but hopefully I'm that question. But what everybody do to help? Joel Rennich, eat pizza, drink beer, please. There's a lot left.
Drinking beer.
Sorry, it's hot.
And
Eat pizza, drink beer, yes.
easiest to join the meet.
Uh,
Everybody gets everything.
you can, yeah, you can do that.
Does that work?
Yeah.
I
I can-
got the link in the Slack.
Yep, I can do that, and I can also message it to you,
Yeah, message me the link.
because I have your thingy here. Look, it wouldn't be a Philly event if. How do I shit? Oh my God, how do I invite somebody? Jesus Christmas.
Invite, you want to go down to participants?
You can tell, I don't
IT person here.
I don't use Zoom. Thank you. Oh, copy and value. I don't use Zoom. I work for a government contract. We don't allow Zoom. There you go, Joel. There's the link. Let me get the share back up here.
Where'd you put the link?
I messaged it to you in messages, but I guess I use Slack.
Slack. I only have messages on the fire.
Gotcha.
Since I'm trying to like
Keep it separate.
work-life balance or something.
What's that about?
Yeah, and Slack kind of blurs that line anyway, so.
There you go.
Really
You're good.
Join
Give me-
the presenters here.
Yeah, give me 1 sec. I'm just going to
Your volume is low. Muted.
yeah, you don't need to get all over.
Doing.
Let me change to the entire
Oh,
kitty cat.
no, that's not a cat.
What? Oh, I didn't. I just saw something fluffy. All right, participants. Joel Moore.
All right. Share a whole screen. Which is. Okay. Get rid of Zoom so nobody sends me rude things while we're doing this.
We're here.
See some slides. Welcome. All right, I'll keep talking till the beer's out or y'all leave.
Awesome.
I don't know which comes first. What are the other? I'm Joel. We're here to talk about shared signals. How many of you care about shared signals? Well, it's actually more hands than I was expecting. How many of you know what shared signals are? Let it be known on the Zoom that of the 980 people that are in the room, 20 raise their hands for both questions. So shared signals is something that was kind of a sleeper hit that's come out. Again, like I said, not a lot of people realize it's out there. So I figured when I got the opportunity, and thank you, Philadelphia. Thank you for the Greater Philadelphia Mac admins. Thank you to, do I call it Mac? Yeah, that works. The Mac Admin Foundation. Thank you to Jamf. Thank you to Fleet. And paid from the break. Yeah, no, thank you very much. It's great. All right, so what are we gonna talk about? Agenda slide, what it is, how it works, where it's used, great, cool. All right, sharing signals. I came up with like a number of puns. Not all of them really worked out well. All right, so the problem, you've all felt it, you've all seen it, you've all been part of it. How do you get your MDM to talk to your IDP? How do you get your IDP to talk to your SSO app? How do you get your SSO app to talk to it? Right? And over the years that we've been in IT, we've probably had anywhere from, I don't know, 100 to 5,000 different ways. And a lot of apps have put together their own guys. There was a dream of one time of slow, single logout. You would log out in one place and magically everything else would go. That dream never happened. And so it ended up being, as the Brits would say, dog's breakfast. Various options and APIs and everything else. That's not good. Sorry, I shouldn't say that.
I go with the SNL Washington State. It's kind of the same thing.
Okay. We'll edit that out. So many ways have been proposed, but not many have ever really come to fruition. And shared signals, what's the XKCD about? Hey, there's 14 standards. We want to have this all in one and something is. So hopefully this isn't that. I think we're a lot closer to actually having a real standard that other folks are in. When we get to the NASCAR slide, who's actually using it, you'll notice some deficiencies though. Talk about that. All right. So more services than ever need to share this. For example, who cares about compliance? Yeah, who wants to care about compliance? Maybe a few lower hands, but everybody, you know, you're being required to do that. You want to know when your device compliance changes. And in particular, if you're not using a suite that has all of MDM and IDP and everything else in one, you have some trouble getting all those signals. And that's exactly what shared signals is designed to do, to cross between some of the vendors and give that environment. So the solution maybe the shared signals framework, SSF if you're cool. I don't know, what's it called when you pronounce, acronym as a word? There's a term for that. No, I'm sorry, but I can get it back. I don't think you can call this, if anybody would know what you're doing. It is supported by the OpenID Foundation, so if you are familiar with OpenID Connect, you should be, if you're a modern admin, I would expect you to run across that same thing in life. It is very heavily promoted by them, which I think is great. And it's not just focused on security events. I mean, it doesn't just encompass that, although that's certainly the initial tranche of work that it's very focused on. Compliance changes, if a session should be revoked if the user changed their password a couple of months. So here's the NASCAR slide. These are all the ones I know of that supported in some way or fashion. Right. So Omnissa, if you don't know who they are, they're the former VMware, former AirWatch, former Workspace, whatever. So that's Omnissa. They're using this now to share Okta, Jamf. We got some champions in the room. That was recent, I think, the last couple of months. About a year ago. More coming. More coming. And that's specifically for Okta to start off with.
It's the first big one. You're talking with some more security.
There you go. You didn't hear it here. But yeah, so and exactly for the same reason, right? Yeah. So you can share device compliance information.
Device management is the closest piece of security on the device, so it cannot be
Said by someone who works in device management.
It's right, so you're talking. Right there, right?
So Apple, who knew Apple was doing SSF? A person from Apple, Tom. So if you do an OpenID Connect Federation with, we call it AXM when we're referring about them?
Yes, only internally.
Only internally. Marketing is not in the room. I won't use your name, so you don't appear on the recording. So when you're using Apple Business Manager, Apple Swap Manager, which is special treat, we'll do one of those two tonight. All right, so using ABM or ASM, and you're not using the two integrations they've had for 10 years, which was Google and Microsoft, noticeably absent from this slide is Google. So if you're going to integrate with ABM or ASM without those two identity providers, you have to do an OpenID Connect Federation. And to do an OpenID Connect Federation, you have to have a shared signal service. Shared signal service doesn't really have to do anything. Get into that later. But as long as it sends back a 200 or 201, you're good. All right, and you can set up that federation. And then you can move on to some of your stuff, right? So Jump Cloud, we support SSF. We had to for the ABM. Yes, looking just like Jamf, looking at other ways that we can do this. Sharing signals with Okta is maybe our #1 requirement, but it's not on the list. As we have a lot of people in very mixed environments, and we just want to be nice, right? If you're reading something on the train, hopefully out of the car, if you're driving on the way home, but I made no judgments. Shared Signals guide is a handy little webpage that you can go to that will kind of distill some of this down for you and show some of the specifics, right? It is I think it's sponsored by Tumo, Cisco, something, I don't know. You'll see the sponsorship in there, but it's well written and it's very digestible as to what's going on. But I wanted to do a little bit more than that. I wanted to actually show you some of the inner workings of what we have. So SSF for non-AI viewers. Right, AI can distill anything and so this is just a couple of points. All right. See, not all the jokes are good. The jokes are different from 10 years ago. Maybe the quality is still the same.
You need another beer.
Still good, but I'll catch you in a bit if I need it. All right, so you can either have push or pull. Pull, slur the word, nobody knows the difference. So one is, and by push, and I say this later, but I'll state this again. It's got nothing to do with push notifications. Erase that whole concept from the mind when you're talking about SSF. All it is if you're a transmitter and you're in a push environment, whenever you get an event, you immediately shove it off to the computers. If you're in a poll environment, you're the receiver, transmitter gets events, stacks them up. You check in every so often. Not too surprising in this day and age. Very few places are going with the poll methodology, because it's just a pain in the ass. So most of them are doing pushes. Events are sent from the transmitter to a receiver. You can be both the transmitter and the receiver, but you have two different streams, each one going here. So there's no concept of two sides sharing things the same. You're setting up one as the transmitter, one as the receiver, vice versa if you want to share. Right? And there's valid reasons why you want to share back and forth. I don't think Jamf takes the end. Yeah. So an idea would be Okta's your IDP, Jamf might be your MDM, or Fleet's fairly limited pretty much. So somebody is your MDM and you might share signals back and forth. Okta could say, hey, this user just logged out, or they just got booted. And then the MDM could do something like potentially lock the devices. Ways of doing this in other fashion today, but this would be a way that maybe coalescing all of these. Another interesting use case is signing out of your SSO. Today, if you go in, use your favorite IDP and sign into Salesforce, you're going to have a session with Salesforce. If you sign out of your IDP, or if your IDP decides you're no longer welcome, you may still have a session with Salesforce. Right, especially with a lot of just-in-time flows, they don't have a back channel to actually be along. So again, this is where SSF would come in. Your IDP would know who signed in and would then message those applications and say, hey, this Tom guy, not so much, you know, and then Tom would be in Salesforce. All right. Now, probably best you sure everyone. Yeah, I know. Agreed. Agreed. We have a second on that one. All right. So most of which, there's about 24 different events. They're broken up into two groups. One is CAVE, but I forget what it stands for. Really, at the center, I should like it's about it all. The other one is RISC, and it does not refer to a chip, but it's RISC. And I only know that it's reduced instruction set computing. This is something else. And they're kind of blur together. Uh-oh, no, the person who I won't name.
Continuous access evaluation protocol
Okay, continuous access evaluation protocol.
and risk incident sharing and coordination.
Risk incident sharing and coordination is like one of those recursive actions.
Yeah, since there's questions, in what case would you use, or what cases do you know where polling is being used?
Can I repeat the question? So the question from the audience was, in what case do I know where polling is being used? A lot of the demo systems. I'm not aware of any like live production system using polling, just because it seems like such a potentially lossy. But if you're setting one up and you want to get events, polling means you don't have to have like a hard coded address. So it is a lot easier for testing them. But again, that's why I don't think polling would be heavily used in such. So the biggest things that I've seen, even though there's about 2 or 3 dozen kind of like standardized events, you can create your own. It's like a free for all, kind of like OIDs. You can write your own OID. Anybody know what an OID is? Domino's commercial. That's it. All right. So, and the ones we're mostly seeing is credential change, session revoked, and then a compliance change. All right. And a lot of the compliance changes from MDM to IDP. Session revoked and session credential change is from the IDP out to other things. Right. There's a bunch more that are in the spec. Some of them get really granular. I don't know that we need that level of granularity. I mean, just kicking people out is probably a good thing to start with. But you'll see, hopefully this gets some legs. You'll see more as we go through this. Transmitter sends the signals, receiver receives the signals, pretty easy. If there's a quiz at the end of this, which there isn't, you hopefully get this too. Right? Not hard. But your brain will fold in on itself, and I'll show you when that happens. What's actually being transmitted in the stream is called a set. And a set is a security event. And a set is going to look a lot like a JWT. You can see the JWT gone to shot if you're cool. Square them all together. No, I've been told this is legitimate, like what the it's like Chip. Shot. Anyway. So JWT is a lot like a set. I'll show you one of these in a little bit so you can see what's actually going on there. The only real difference is it has a different type of event. So you don't accidentally confuse it for an ID token or an access token, which would be no bueno. All right, these are not designed for any sort of authorization. And then a stream, and again, it's not a stream in the sense of a WebSocket, just like the push is not a push in the sense of it. All right. A stream is literally just you've established a transmitter to receiver, and they're either pulling or pushing. That's a stream, all right? And it's just a collection of sets that go across there. All right. If you're pushing, the transmitter sends a signed set to the endpoint that was set up by the receiver. All right, so the receiver has an endpoint. When your MDM sends to your IDP, the IDP has an endpoint that's been set up. The transmitter, which would be your MDM, sends the event just to that endpoint. And it literally, it's pretty much just the set by itself. There's not a lot of JSON or whatever like that. Each message gets its own individual push post, to be specific. The receiver validates the signature. Well, the whole authentication authorization part of this spec is kind of left as an exercise for the reader. The vast majority of what's going on is your transmitter will have a JWEX, JWX, that JWEX sounds bad, but JWEX sounds cool. Something. Teaching you the links when you're out at the bar and somebody asks you about shared signals, you're going to sound like you know what you're talking about. Right? Yeah, take a shot for me. Absolutely. In my heart. Be there. All right. I'm throwing pearls. So on the transmitter, you have a JWEX file. If you've ever done any JWT work for OpenID Connect, all of the IDPs have a JWEX file. It hosts their public signing keys. Transmitter will sign the set with those signing keys, and that's how the receiver validates what it's doing. So in most of these cases, there's no authentication token, there's no bearer token, there's no anything else on this. And in some ways, it almost seems like it's a little bit too magic to get that up because it just kind of works. And you didn't have to plug in an auth token or something like that. Apple, of course, decided to do it a slightly different way. We'll show you that in a minute. All right, receiver processes the event. If this sounds like fancy webhooks, you'd be right. If you've ever used a webhook for any of these systems from a long time, you know, webhooks have been around for quite a while. This is what that is. A webhook was just an endpoint that you would send a little bit of JSON. This is pretty much the exact same thing. You're just signing the JSON with a private key and then sending it on. And that's what we're using for authentication. All right. So if that's in your head, that's a great way of thinking about this as what you go for. So if you're polling, you're effectively checking in, receiver checks in every so often, transmitter delivers some amount of sets. It's actually a pretty chatty protocol because the receiver has to phone back in and say, I actually got all these after it got them before the transmitter's supposed to get rid of them. And that's probably why nobody does polling. Or nobody does, yeah, because pushing is just a one-shot thing. All right, this is a set. This is a live set. Well, it's probably expired by now, but it's a real set. So if you use your iPhone and capture the text, you'll see, just like a JWT, it's in 3 parts. So the part in yellow is the header. That tells it what encryption is used or what crypto is used on the signature. The fact that it's a set. The green part's the body. That's got all the information in it. The red part's the signature. All right. The body and the header are completely unencrypted. The signature is a signature. So if you decode that down, you get something that looks like this. And if you colorize that a little bit, I didn't put the signature in because that's just a bunch of random. So there's your header. We're using the RSA with a 256 hash on it. A little weird in a world of P256 and secure enclave keys. The actual standard favors RSA. And Okta will only accept RSA signed. Little top tip. If you're building this on your own, don't lose a day like I did trying to figure out what's going on there. All right, there's the payload. The audience in this case is an Okta trial. Thank you, Okta, for making trials really easy. It's great for testing these kinds of things. The event here is just a credential change. So what I was doing, my SSF transmitter was sending this to Okta to say a credential had changed. Be a little weird me sending it to an IDP to tell them the credentials changed. Hopefully they knew that before I did. But hey, the spec handles whatever you want to do there. And you can see there's an event that event has this HTTPS schema openid.net. It's a schema tag. It's not actually a real live URL. Why did they do this? I have no idea. It could have just been a number. Maybe that would have been easier, but now you at least know what it is. There's an event timestamp, a subject. So that's a particular user in my Okta tenant that I was saying had their password changed. And then, expires issued by the transaction, because if you want to link some sets together, you have a transaction claim there. So if you can say this password change and maybe this compliance change were all done as part of the same event, you can loop these together here with that transaction. And then the issuer was me, ssf@jclabs.net. Pretty straightforward, right? No real magic here. All easy. And again, the type is different. It's a sec event plus JWT. You got a drinking problem. If it was just a JWT, it would say JWT. So that's kind of how you know it's different and why you should never be able to use this as an ID token or something else, because anything processing that ID token should hopefully look for that and be very upset if you're trying to use this inappropriately. All right, there's the actual CAPE event. In this case, it's CAPE. You can see it because it's in that URL, event type credential change. And then there's the payload. And all right, demo time.
Will the demo gods work?
Little admission. I got kind of lost and I built a fully working transmitter and receiver.
That's
As one does to play around with this. And then I got a little carried away and I added passkey support because I don't like signing in with passwords. So I can now do this. And here's a live working SSF transmitter and receiver. So I wanted to be able to start showing how some of these pieces go back and forth as we go. All right, so we're going to use this as part of the demo. If anyone really wants to play, I actually set it up as a multi-tenant system with vanity URLs. And I can, I think I even went really far and create an organization account and you can send a request. So anyway, that's there. So we've got this, and what I'm going to try to do is, again, if the demo gods work with me, we're going to do some live cooking, and we wanted to create the most obnoxiously hard way to show SSL possible. So I have Apple School Manager up, and I have an Apple School Manager account, and we will commence a OpenID Connect federation with an SSF service and deep breath. Okay. So this is running in Amazon, but I actually do have this running locally. So if things get bad, we can turn this into how to troubleshoot Go as we go through here. So, all right, I'm going to sign into Apple School Manager. And I'm going to get like a text. There we go. And we're going to wait for the text to come through. And the whole point of doing this OpenID Connect Federation is so you never have to do this again, because you can actually start using your own IDP with probably better MFA than texts to an SMS. All right. And then this, which is a placebo dialogue, right? Because it never seems to make a damn bit of difference which button you touch on. And you get then back and forth. So what we've got here, I'm going to go back into preferences, and this is managed Apple accounts. Make sure you call them MAs, not maids anymore, right? Don't let it used to be IL3. What do you call it now? Section 7? What's the wedge where marketing lives?
Section 4, section 3.
Section 3.
That's how they don't belong.
Don't let section 3 catch you calling them maids. All right. So what we got here, I'd already set this up. So we're going to tear this down. And I'm doing this just so you know how to tear it down, because this is less than intuitive. So first you have to disable this here, which makes you a little bit nervous, like maybe you're disconnecting your entire domain. So don't hit this button. Hit this button up here. And then you can go up here and you can disconnect, and you can say that as you go forward. All right. So now I can actually go through and I can get started. And when you see this get started, you see how would you like your users to sign in? And this is what I was talking about before. And if you've never used Apple School Manager, you do have a little bit of different options in here. But heretofore, until about a year ago, 9 months ago, that I think this came out on the Apple side, you had to have either Google Workspace or a Microsoft Entra ID. And Google was a newcomer, right? When this started, it was only Microsoft that you were able to. And so we had a lot of people, Jump Cloud, Tom set them up a lot, that would set up a free Entra account, integrate with Jump Cloud just to get API. And that was a royal pain in the ass. Like, we can do it, but nobody wants that, right? At least you don't have to pay for it, but still nobody wants it, right? So then they added Google, which is great. And then finally, after a while, they've got custom identity provider. And so here's where you can actually set up your OpenID Connect Federation. And we're going to do this. I'm going to put a name in here. Cloud. Spelled right. That's awkward. Client ID, client secret, a config URL, and an OpenID config. So notice the SSF config is different from the OpenID. And what I'm going to tell you here, if you want to do this your own, anybody on Ping or SailPoint, yeah, I knew that. Sorry. You know, so if you're on an IDP that doesn't have SSF, you can actually run your own SSF service entirely separate from any IDP. These things are not at all conjoined in any way, shape, or form. Really. I thought about posting some code that just had an autoresponder that was 200 to everything. And SSF config URL, and that way you'd be able to get through this. That's probably how live are we?
We're streaming on Zoom.
But there are some folks.
Oh, there's only couple.
Yeah, a couple. All right. Well, they're good folks.
Yeah.
They're good folks. So what we're gonna do here. Uh-oh.
No, don't do it.
All right. Let me, because I would, even though I don't care about these
Yeah.
shared secrets,
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not gonna show my shared secrets because that's good hygiene as I go through this. And so I'm putting a client ID in and then populating the shared secret. These are just standard OpenID Connect settings. There's really nothing at all that interesting about them. And now that I've got that, I can bring this back up. How do I turn off my video? My video is off. Oh, but this is from you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what was confusing me. All right. So I've got that here. And now I'm going to go through and my SSF config URL. I'll actually do this locally just to be cheeky since I've got it running. So this is Cursor. And when we go to the bar afterwards, we can talk about adventures in AI coding, which has its ups and downs. But this whole web interface that you're seeing with the SSF service was probably started at breakfast in a hotel in London about a week ago. And there's some amazing things that can be done. I'm now coding in a different way. I don't know if that's good or bad, but things change. And so there we go. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to use https://lssf jclabs.dev. This is my actual local service that I'm running here. Well known. There we go. And it is SSF-configuration. And if I do this, I'm going to do that. It's going to think, and you're going to see that I actually got a ping on my well-known SSF configuration. That's when the magician passes the hoop over the floating assistant, right? See all the things are put together. If we go into this page, if you're at all curious, and Chrome shows it better, because it can do this. This is what that looks like. And so this is an SSF configuration file. If you've looked at an OpenID Connect -configuration, very similar. It's got a couple of endpoints, some other things. It's got a reference to the JWEX.json file out there. And if I grab that URL and show that, you can see a very standard JWEX.json file that shows the public keys that this service is using to send messages with. All right. So pretty straightforward. We're now going to go back into here and we're back to Apple School Manager. And then I'm gonna grab my OpenID config. And I always forget what this one is. Where's my little tool? Use this later. Oh, that's us. That's us. All right, so this is just your OpenID Connect configuration. If you use Jamf Connect, hey, that's my software. There's really only 3. Well, after who's hey, fantastic. Oh, that's great. That's great. I wasn't expecting that, but cool. So you check both of these, and then you're able to click the continue button. And every time I click the continue button, it always comes back. I don't know if that's me. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have a few of those, specifically around some of these things. And it's kind of radio science. But it's really handy because all you have to do is hit continue again, and you're back there and everything's active. So now what's going to happen here is as soon as I hit continue, it's going to do a little bit of thinking, and it's going to pop open an OpenID Connect authentication window. I'm going to sign in to this application of this client secret that I specified. I'm then going to get a token from there. Apple's going to turn around with that token, and it's going to create a stream on my transmitter. My transmitter will immediately do a blind verification push back to Apple. So the stream comes in, the verification push goes back out. If Apple gets the verification push and everything looks good, Apple says double thumbs up, you're in good shape. All right, perfect. That's how it's going to happen. And then we can start playing around. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And I'm going to make sure streams there are good. Cool. So I don't have a stream for this. So this should actually work. Again, demo gods, all the rest. All right. So I'm going to hit continue. It's going to think. It's going to pop up with do you want to sign to a jump cloud? Why, yes, I do. It's going to bring this up. I was already signed in. So now it should be connecting. Hey! What? All right. So now let's look what happened. Not now, thank you very much, Safari. If I go back to my little streams here, you can see a brand new stream that's in here. So this is the stream that Apple created. And Apple, as a receiver, sent it to me as the transmitter, said, hey, transmitter, I want you to send me events. In these events, I can look and I can see what's on here. And it's only asking for 2 types of events: credential change and session revoked. Anything else, it'll ignore. It may ignore those, but it's guaranteed to ignore anything else. So out of the possible 24 events that it could receive, it'll send me 200s. If I try to send it something it doesn't want, it just lets it. All right. But those are the 2 that it tells me it's looking for. And I have already sent an event. As part of the actual stream creation setup here, you've got to send this push verification to prove to Apple that the stream was created. So it sends it to me with a token. I accept that token. I create the stream. I send it back at 201, 202. What's created? 202, 201. I send it back at 201, and then I immediately send it a blank push. And that blank push is right here. And if I view the details on it, you can see what I sent, which was just this SSF event type verification. All right. Some other stuff, which was the type. This is the name of the stream, a few other things that are in here. This is the actual webhook URL, right? That's the webhook URL. That's where I'm sending these to. I believe this is unique. I should check that. It should be a unique URL because of the UUID at the end. But I don't know that I've ever compared that one.
Some would say it's fancy.
Some would say it's fancy. Absolutely. It is a fancy webhook. And that's what we have here. So now we have a stream. I can go in and I can create a new event. I can select my stream. I can do another verification. All this other stuff is ignored by Apple, so it doesn't matter. I create the event. It's going to get sent. If I refresh here, it's not delivered. Woo! Exciting. I have sent an event that meant nothing. but now we want to do this better. For you, what we're gonna do here, so I'm going into Apple. So first of all, this is the thing I always forget. Once you set this up, you then have to go back to your verified Apple ID domain and turn it on for the OpenID Connect Federation. So there is a little bit of a couple of steps here. Who loves taking their domain? Who's had a great time reserving their domain for managed Apple accounts? Just 2 3 hands.
I can say at that time.
At that time.
We had another. Time on
Is
this.
this before or after they made it easier?
It's easier. Yeah,
It is a lot easier.
it is a lot easier. It's still maybe a little more than it could be. So then you have to actually flip the switch on. So now I'm turning on Federation for these 2 accounts. This all looks good. So that took. So we're good here. And then let's see what it did with my user since I deleted it. We may have to recreate a user. Let's go back to users, JC1. And the thing that gets this here is that it isn't federated. All right. So if you see federated here for your user under details under authentication, that means it's going to use this new managed OpenID Connect Federation. And this is what truly gets you a fully managed Apple account, all single moments. And this is where the cool stuff is. You don't have to do the SMS text anymore, and it is pretty cool. So what we have here now, let's see if this works, is I wanted to do this on the VM, but what can't you do with a VM? Sign in with a managed Apple account.
Never.
So
It's been that way.
I have an iPhone SE. I forgot I had this. Maybe this is the raffle prize. I think this is the. There's it.
I have 2.
It's like an iPhone for ants.
Take
It's
together.
very small. I have trouble seeing it. My fingers are too big for it. So if I do this right, quick time. There we go. And new movie recording. I always get confused. Movie. And then screen is iPhone. All right. All right. So you can see it's actually bigger. It's like easier for me to see it on the big screen than it is on this. All right. So I'm now going to attempt. So I wanted to do this with a VM because it might be easier for screen sharing purposes and other things. But a managed Apple account cannot sign into Apple IDs on a VM. Personal Apple accounts, is that what we call them? Moz and Pause? Right. Pause. A personal Apple account can. Little top tip, and that happened, I think, a year ago. That happened with Sequoia.
Requires Apple Silicon.
Yeah,
You have to be on Sequoia and it has to be a Sequoia V.
there you go. So if you have that whole stack, you can sign in with a personal Apple account. You will never sign in with a managed Apple account.
Asterisk.
Asterisk. Well, all right, fair.
For
Or at this point,
today.
today. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna sign in manually. And so here I've got my Apple account. I'm gonna try to have very small fingers. JC1 at jcappleid.com. Thank you, Tom. Good eyes. That might have taken us an hour to figure it out. Yeah. Man, getting old sucks. All right, continue. Now it knows I'm federated. So instead of just showing me a password dialog, I get the full thing. I can now hit continue, and it's got the little mortarboard, so I know I'm in Apple School. I didn't pick that logo. On my SSF service, you can pick your own logo. I got that. Especially for your vanity URLs, it shows up. It's really cool. It's really cool. All right, I'm gonna sign in, and I'm gonna do. Oh, good. It hides the passwords like it should. I am now signed in. Woo! So it's gonna sit here and kind of spin for a little bit and sign in. I'm gonna enter my passcode. There we go. All right. Perfect. It doesn't do faces. Like I looked at it for a while. No, and I had to do this. Computer. All right. So now what I'm gonna do This page is signed in through the cloud service, so I'm gonna sign in through my local service. Otherwise, I'll have the wrong thing. And that's an AI generated logo. Look at that. I told it I need a logo of things being shared. And I need it to move. I maybe wanted it more colorful, but I thought I did pretty well. And I wasn't gonna push my luck with something else. So here I'm gonna sign in. It's gonna be the same thing because it's the same Dynamo database in the back end, but the issuer is gonna be important. So if I send something from an issuer that's different, Apple should get mad about that. This goes through. All right, so events. I'm gonna go down here. So here are our user streams that we had. Everything was good. Oh, it came from SSF. It made me confused. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Now, one of the things that I had to set up is I had to set up the Jump Cloud user IDs. So when you sign into the managed Apple account and you go through the Apple Federation, you have an OpenID Connect flow, you get an ID token, you get all that stuff that you get out of OpenID Connect. And in there, I've got my email address, but I also have a subject. Apple triggers everything off the subject. So now what I'm gonna send, which hopefully is gonna happen live, I'm gonna log this user out. And I'm gonna log that user out by pushing the subject back. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna go back to my events. And I'm gonna create an event. Stream is the Apple one, the event type is credential change. Subject type, actually, let's do even worse, session revoked. Subject type will leave empty. I'm gonna have a user. I select this user, JC1, and it builds out this little payload for me down here. So I can actually have that properly set. So what's gonna happen here is if I do this correctly, it's gonna send this to push event to Apple. Apple's gonna get the event, and although it's gone to sleep, so I'll open it back up again. You're then gonna see me get logged out on this phone right here. So we'll kind of keep this up in the corner, and I'm gonna go down here. I'm gonna create this event. That's getting pushed. It's pending. I'll refresh. It's delivered. Everything looks hunky-dory there. If I go down here to cursor, I got a 202 from Apple, so that's good. So let me go back down to here. And if I touch it, it usually goes faster. There you go. So live demonstration of a shared signal. And this is 100% what it's designed. In that otherwise you would have no way of going to Apple and getting the user signed out. I think you can revoke it from within the portal.
That's the UI.
Within the UI, yeah. But you have to go there for each individual user. You'd have to remember your SMS code and you'd have to do all that stuff to get signed in. And then you'd have to be able to do that. In this way, this is how we have automated signals going back. Pretty cool, right? Hey! Right. Couple other things that we can chat about real quick that are in here. I've got a receiver set up. I did have an Okta receiver set up. If you go in, I'm gonna have to sign back into this Okta tenant, which is gonna make me do a couple of things. Here we go. Featured code from my Okta Verify. I appreciate that.
I mean, it's not moving.
That's why I keep coming back to Philly.
100% less.
I need to be moving.
Yeah.
100%.
It's maybe you are on.
Yeah. Not this trial stuff up at the top. Geez, come on. So if you go down to security, this is where you're gonna find it in Okta. If you pay a lot of money, you'll actually have a transmit shared signals here. I think it goes in with their identity threat protection package. If anybody's using that, you'll have another column in here. It won't be much different. And then you've got to receive shared signals in here, which is you can actually create a stream and then I can push shared signals to it. So, and there's not a lot to set up. The integration name is here. and you just put something in, you know, la, and then you would put in your well-known URL. In this case, it'd be ssf.jclabs.dev / well-known. And then SSF configuration. And then they're doing something similar to what Apple's doing in that they require the first stream creation to have an OpenID Connect access token. So you would go in and you would create in your applications, you would create just an OpenID Connect app. I haven't done it in this tenant because I just set it up. And then you would go get this. I've got this little tool that helps me get OpenID Connect tokens. And then on this side, you just create a new receiver. And same thing, you get to pick which ones you want to get. Because the receiver sends in and say, hey, I want everything. Give me it all. And then the transmitter can say that tough, here's the 2 we care about. And this is the only 2 you're gonna get. And then that's how you kind of set this up back and forth. And it's otherwise pretty simple. I've got a spot here where you can just drop that access token into so you can have it. And here you can see that I requested credential change and session revoked, and Okta said they did both of those. And then the received events, do I have any in here? Yeah, I've got a few. So if you go into Okta, you can actually do a password change, and it will push these out. It's kind of fun to see them. Again, it's probably a little less than useful to have one IDP talk to another in the Smash, but maybe you're federated, maybe you've got other reasons that you want to do this. And so we've got that facility. So that's the other side of it. And again, the sets look almost exactly the same if we go back into here. The only major difference is that the issuer is going to be the other side. So the issuer here is always the transmitter. So in this case, it's one of the Okta tenants that I have. It's up there. And then so cool stuff back and forth. All right. Questions? Oh, it's one I wrote. Maybe up on Slack. Yeah, I don't. It's kind of fun. I don't know. I was gonna open source it, but then I didn't. I don't know. So you just, hey, there's tokens.
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's awful. Yeah. Just write it in. It's fine. The library that's under here is OICC Lite, which is mine, and that's open source. Powers X-Credits. There you go. You got this. Power behind X-Credits. In a small different app. We had a question? So great question, right? And they were the big 2 missing from that NASCAR slide of people that are promoting this. I have no idea. You know, we've chatted with Google about it a little bit. They're kind of like, we've chatted with Microsoft a little bit about it, and they're like, we already do everything. Maybe get Intune and Contra together, because then we can solve it, and you don't need a SSL.
Google, right? 8. I mean, that's their statement. I mean, they're not diving in on SSLs on one.
Don't work for Google. Yeah. Yeah, I got nothing of that. Microsoft's on a lot of the standard documents as well, the RFCs. So they're definitely aware of it. I just don't know if they just haven't got there or no interest. Or...
You currently need ID that supports SysApp.
So again, all depends on what you want to do. If we go back to
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, can I repeat the question?
Keep going.
Do I need an IDP that currently supports SSF to work with Apple Business Manager? And all the Apple people can close their ears right now. But when we went through this process, and it doesn't show me what's actually got set up, so to actually show you those fields, I have to tear the whole thing down again. There's one field for your OpenID Connect well-known URL. That's coming straight from your IDP. Your IDP is going to have that put in. The field is for your SSF service. These are 2 entirely separate things. So what I showed you here, I set up Jump Cloud as the OpenID Connect IDP, just like you would with yours. Nothing different there. And then, I mean, yes, there's a prerequisite here of having your own SSF service. But if you have an SSF service, it does not have to be the same as yours. And I will say, from having experimented with this, if you have a web endpoint that just returns 201 to everything, you're 2/3 of the way there. You just have to do that blank push through. But hey, yeah, you'll be fine. So yeah, there's no real connection between those two. If you did want it to do that flow, it's a perfectly valid way of doing it. Well, I say that as somebody that's not an Apple. And then the other conflating factor, contributing factor, mitigating factor is that if you do the rest of this setup here, you can actually get a skim integration. And if your IDP has skim, which most should, skim will actually handle the creation, deletion, and everything else. So the SSF part, and this is where Tom and I went back and forth on this. Well, we were in violent agreement, but we did have some conversations because we needed to sit down and have a beer. But we did have a couple of conversations around, do customers really want it changing? Because the way it's set up, if you change your password in your IDP, you will get kicked out of all your managed Outlook accounts across the board. It's like to some degree, except you don't get the option password. Yes. So, and this is where in today's world where you're forced to change password on 90 days still, hopefully that's not the case, but you know it is. All right. But you already have MSP. So why am I going to kick you out of everything just because you changed your password on a regular rotation that you had? That's not a security thing, right? And so like we had customers in our early beta testing that were like, yeah, we don't want that. We prefer we didn't have it. Right. So your IDP has some options of when to send those requests and when not to. Right. So keep that in mind. But yeah, it's just again, if you've got skim that's working, I don't know that SSF really adds a huge amount to you right here. Because as soon as you disable that user or turn it off, then you'll see them get logged out of all their. Other questions?
There's a third-party integrator, Signal.ai. SGNL.
SGNL.ai. So they're also one of the huge proponents. And don't do .com because it wants you to buy it. So
Product integration.
you have to scroll down and kind of use AI to figure out what the hell they're trying to sell. But Signal is very much behind SSF. They're doing a lot of promotion because they want to be the glue that connects all this. All right. And they do a lot more than just SSF. They've written a bunch of connectors so that if Salesforce doesn't do SSF, they've got the API.
So they kind of built what you built, what they're selling.
Sure. Sure. Sounds familiar. Well, I mean, I know they've raised a lot. They're good folks. I don't know if they're profitable. So you can say, if you give me $1 for mine, maybe I'll be ahead. I imagine, I don't know this, I haven't gotten into, but my guess is they are using the Microsoft and Google APIs directly. So they would be that SSF kind of proxies where they could accept it from a Jamf, for example. So yes, the question was, could you decouple it? Absolutely. And that's maybe one of the reasons why it is a separate URL in that in Apple Suite Manager, not the Business Manager. Because you could conceivably have something like Signal being used to manage that organization. I mean, the preference would be whatever tools keep you employed. Is it better than Skim? I think it's designed to be a little bit quicker. You know, Skim is a little bit more heavy-handed. It's user created, usually with something else like that. There's not a lot else that happens in there. This would be more subtle.
Would you say that this is full on replacement for Skim if you had it set up?
It doesn't create users. So Skim still does what Skim was created for, create delete users. SSF has nothing. So yeah, so I wouldn't say, I mean, the Venn diagram isn't very. Other questions?
Well, no,
are the well-known IDPs that don't support SSF? Well, Google and Microsoft are two. Maybe you've heard of them. I have no knowledge about Ping. I have no knowledge about SailPoint. Keycloak, maybe? One login, no, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's still, I don't know that I'd say cutting edge. Because Apple has adopted it and Apple isn't always cutting edge on some of these things. Although I will say Apple using it for ABM and ASM has definitely forced a lot of IDP's hands to start supporting it. So in that sense, it's good. I mean, the jump cloud, I don't know how much we care because we're a fairly closed ecosystem as far as device management and IDP together, that we wouldn't necessarily need this. But for the Apple Business Manager integration, 100% answer. Once everybody got to it, like Tom and I were in the new developer center or whatever that's called. Tantal 14. And this came out and we're like, why not? Why not just do Open Connect like everybody else did? Some benefits to this, like you saw the immediate log out and things like that. If I didn't have Skim, but I had SSF, I would have some functionality. I would still go in and have to manually create my users, which isn't super exciting, but you know, it's not the worst thing people do. It's what you've been doing with most managed Apple accounts for the last 10 years anyway. So you want this.
Correction, check, authentic does. support that.
Authentic does. Okay. Ah, and it's open source. And Fleet,
We're not like.
oh, but you could send compliance signal.
That's what you want. Or let it go. Pull request.
Pull request. Yeah. So I think you'll see more of it. And the reason why you'll see more of it, I think with Okta, Jamf, NISA really promoting it, it's got a fair amount of oomph behind it. You know, it's gonna be up to customers if they understand how these things fit together. For people to demand it, right? That's, I mean, at the end of the day, that's who pays the freight. And how we build the things that we build. Right? But I think it's, you know, I'm intrigued enough by it. It was fun kind of spending some time with it over the last week, you know, seeing what we could do here. And it's as far as the protocol goes, it's relatively modern. Got some commentary about it because it was definitely made by a number of different people with slightly different desires out of the protocol.
Made by committee.
Made by committee, and like most protocols, probably like 2/3 of it's going to be ignored. You know, there's 20-some CAPE and risk events, and most people care about them. And I don't know that the other.
In your estimation, are there any other useful ones?
Well, that's a good question. I was thinking about that as I was going through this. So if you go down to the end of the shared signals.guide, they actually list out a bunch of them. Session revoke, token claims change. So this would be, you know, maybe if your group's changed, you've signed into Salesforce as an admin, but then maybe you get demoted to just sales rep. And that would be in the token. And in most cases, you'd have to sign out and sign back in, or they'd have to have a way to revoke your session, right? In this case, you'll be able to say your group membership claim moved from one thing to another. Assurance level, I'm not entirely sure how that's different from device compliance. I'm sure somebody that's on the gov side might know. Here you go. Next, AAL 1, 2, 3. Stop it. Stop it. There we go.
We need the drink more.
Yeah. So that's like, you know, that's very specific. If I move the, oh, there it goes. Account credentials change required. So this is an interesting one where it's not necessarily saying bail on the whole session. It's saying you need to change your password. So this could be something, you know, I don't know, made up example. Your device management service believes you've been compromised in some way. It sees malware on the device and it goes, oh my gosh, your password didn't get captured. So it would send this. So it's more than just sign in again. So you actually have to rotate your credentials. Some of these are kind of skim-ish. you know, account purge, account disable, account enable, but there's not an account creation.
Yeah.
So. This would fill in a lot of the holes if you were using a just-in-time flow. If you didn't have scheme on the back end and you're just using tokens to go back and forth, you can have that in there. Opt out effective, recovery, sessions revoked, identifier recycled. The subject was recycled and it now belongs to a new user. My God, don't reuse user identities. We're no longer in this. Right, so, like, some of these are kind of weird, like, somebody obviously had a reason that they needed this. And that. And in theory, you can create your own schema, as long as both the sender and the receiver understand it. You can make, you know, Joel.com, second that, Joel slash.
The only thing like this is reminding me of is like maybe somebody got married, and so their name changed or something like that, and then you want to use the new name string for the old identity. I mean,
Correct.
Compelling reasons why you do not recycle.
yes.
And many of them have come down to SOC 2 compliance. SOC 2 compliance is pretty clear, like, hey, what's your pattern identifier? It doesn't matter if there's another bridge. You know, you don't get to recycle the bridge.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ted.
Yeah,
Thanks, Troy.
Question from the Zoom one.
Question from the Zoom, fantastic.
What's your perspective on the device posture potential with SSM?
So, perspective on the device, I don't need to repeat it because they know it's honestly.
Yes.
Well,
All right.
The recording.
So I think it's like heretofore, we've not had something that more than one MDM vendor has ever signed. All right. So the idea of sending compliance or posture signals this way, who's a CrowdStrike customer? You've got the ZTA score, right? Do you know what that's made out of? Tears.
Don't use it, don't care.
Yeah, so it's got a score, but you gotta dig for it, so it's something a little different. If you're Sentinel-1, it's got a malicious, suspicious, something else on it. So again, you gotta mesh these together. You don't have any easy way of doing it. As an identity provider, we would have to create unique connectors for both of those, because their APIs are entirely different. And then there's still a couple of niggly bits in here, like, you know. NISA is able to push to Okta through SSF for device compliance. Not an Okta SE, so I couldn't tell you the specifics, but I do know they have an SSF connection. I've heard you may need to add on more SKUs to get on that on both sides.
You need fast, that's fair.
Yeah, but you would be able to have some of that. And part of it is gonna be, you still have the problem of, you've got to have a shared understanding of who a user or device is. All right, and email is probably not good enough for some of the reasons we were talking about before. So I need to know the subject ID. I need to have some awareness to be able to push to that. On the device side, like when Omniscient talks to Okta or Jamf talks to Okta, I don't know, are you sending a device signal or are you sending a user signal? Anyone from Jamf? No. You're sending a device. And what device ID are you using?
It's not. Security.
And Okta knows the UUID? All right. I'm not trying to call anybody out, but that's exactly some of the problems, right? And especially when you get into things like user enrollment, where you get a unique enrollment ID that's different from the hardware ID. Like, how do we make sure that both sides know we're talking about the same device? Or do we just resolve this down to a user and say, I know that it's Serge on this device, and I don't want him to sign in anymore. And then when I sorry. I lock him out of all the devices that are in.
That subject ID is for the user, that's like persistent, like that's not for just event, that's persistent, that's identifier for the.
It's the subject ID from the IDP.
Okay.
And when you signed in through OpenID Connect, this was the subclaim in the token.
Is this a very different?
It should be the same. It should be the same.
So that looks like a normal. I guess the case we want is to jump by.
Yep. If you knew what a Mongo object ID looked like, you would sense some similarities in it. It's okay. It's good. It's best. We're at time. All right. That mean we're done?
No, it just,
I told you I'd keep talking until the beer ran out or the question stopped.
the stream will end soon, but if we have,
Oh.
we can continue after this, because we do have a room for a little bit. We're fine. Okay.
Because you can only do 90 minutes on a second.
No, I was just like, you know,
I
that.
was going to one of the top tier Mac admin. Unlimited
You
Zoom.
need enough beer then.
Well, cool. All right. Well, for those of you on the stream,
I'm just giving a warning that we are at times, so people might need.
Oh, gotcha.
That's all.
Eric's gonna stay.
There you
All right. Did he leave
go.
already?
It's early. No, he's on.
All right.
And Chris,
And that would have been awkward.
Chris is there behind.
It's barely quitting time for
Yeah.
Chris.
So, all right. I'm just letting you know that there's something might.
Other questions?
So on that vein, right, CrowdStrike, Falcon, and other EGR tools would become transmitter
100%.
and provide this
100%.
telemetry, this insight
100%.
to the IDP.
100%.
And IDP decides
What's
what
going
to
to?
do.
Yep.
And then at that point, it's just gonna then transmit out. This is.
Correct.
Shut it down.
Correct. And loops from there. It's Mr. Mochi, I think, right?
Yes, Mr. Mochi.
Mr. Harry.
Mr. Harry Mochi. All right, we didn't make the name. Don't talk to Eric. So yes,
Love that.
it could be EDR tools, other things that could be able to send signals like that. Which is one of the nice things about this is it is a fairly uncomplicated, simple process of being able to push these things.
Definitely good feedback for customers.
Absolutely,
Necessary.
absolutely.
That's a good way for everybody.
There is a side to this, which I didn't get into because I don't think anybody's going to pay any attention to it. But there is the concept of registering a subject. When SSF started out, there was this belief that maybe there'd be too many tokens. Maybe there'd be too many things in the world. How cute, yes, how cute that we would think too much information would somehow be a problem. So, oh, no, that's a whole different, no, we need more than beer.
What was that?
No. So
Next month.
with this, there's the idea of adding a subject that when you would create a stream, like if I'm Apple Business Manager, I may have an Okta tenant, I may have a Jump Cloud tenant that has 1,000 users on it. Maybe only 3 of them have ever signed into an app. But yet I'm going to be sending signals for all of them. So every time any of those 1,000 users changes their password, whatever. So SSF had a concept of the IDP could register, or actually, no, sorry, this is where my dyslexia will get me. The receiver, Apple Business Manager, could register with the IDP because the receiver could say, hey, Joel just signed in. Joel signed in, I went into here and I signed in, and then ABM would send a subject to the IDP that says, I care about Joel. If it's Tom, don't come up. And that way, the IDP would then only send information about it. The problem with that is a huge amount of stuff to keep track of. And if you don't sign out or you sign it again, or right? And tokens are free. So who cares? So most places will probably ignore this whole entire part of this. Which is fine. It's not necessarily outside of the spec. This was again something that people, I think, when they were coming up with it, were like, oh, this would be really cool. And then, and then somebody on the SDP side is like, wait a minute. We're not going to keep trying these things. And in some degree, if you did have 100, we're using this for session sign up and things like that. The last thing you'd want to be keeping track of is all this. So now it's just, if you don't like the signal, you just give it a 200, hey buddy, you're cool. And then you just let it go. And it's easier that way. You can send pretty much anything to ABM. And it's just great. And if it can process it, it does. If it doesn't get angry, it just says, nope. English. Other questions?
And you're gonna have that. Sign. One of your phones maybe missing an update.
Mhm.
No one like. And to go up to the signs, yeah. all-
So the question is, in a compliance world in particular, where you've got a number of different devices, probably all of us are signed into a half dozen different devices. You may have a compliance change on one of them, and you don't want that to cascade to all of your other events. You don't want that to sign you out. You maybe just want to sign out of the one that have a compliance change. And this is where it gets a little tricky, right? The sender and the receiver have to have a shared understanding of all those devices. And then a shared understanding of what an event means when it corresponds to that. If you go in and you look at these events, so if I go down here to compliance change, there you go, device compliance change, and I look at the actual spec, you can see that you do have some options of what the device is, who's intended in sending it. So you can actually come in with a, pretty explicit subject. But again, you have to have that shared understanding between the transmitter and the receiver, or else the receiver is left up to its own devices, right? As the Apple documentation for MCX stated, behavior undefined. So yeah, I mean, again, the spec only covers getting the payload to the other side. What the other side does with it is entirely up to the other side. So that's why I was asking about the Jamf Okta integration is, are you sending a particular specific device ID? Is that respected by Okta? How does Okta trigger on that? Or does it just say, some changed, we're just gonna hit the red button and make you sign in on it?
My favorite was always the PL terms. That's what it said. I think it says the PL term affects no rules, but it's up.
True. Other questions?
How do you do the wording from things like AI or last?
Oh, absolutely. So how do we see this working with AI devices? Like if you get signed out of all your AI devices. I was signed back in on you. So take that, SSF. We'll just sign him back in. I mean, I had an interesting, we do these little press things every so often, and I had one before coming over here. They were talking about non-human identities. We got onto the topic of what is zero trust for AI? When Gemini or something is going to interact with your IDP, like I can see most users just happily typing in their credentials in Gemini. Hey, Gemini, I want to create some Google Slides, or hey, Gemini, I'm a little behind on my quota. Can you look in Salesforce and figure out who I should call next, right? And Gemini will go, hey, great, thanks. Come on in, just give me your credentials. Fair enough. I'm sorry. Some of them are German and have 3 letters. So yeah, but I'm picking on Salesforce. I don't want to pick on you. I feel I'll press it. That's fair enough. So I signed in the SAP and I'm like, okay, how do I get my quota better? And so it's an interesting thought. Do I allow authentication from Gemini easier? Do I make it harder? Do I want to limit it? Like lots of questions in there. How AI, I know you're being a little flip, but how AI would fit in with SSF. In theory, so I'm trying to answer your question with a semi-legitimate answer, is that SSF would at least allow me to kill that section if I thought I'd gone rogue. If I thought the AI was starting to hallucinate and suddenly all of your accounts were being called, prank called by the AI, then I can turn that dependent on it. I mean, again, it's a great way of expressing that signal to those other services. And so I think there is a legitimate use case for it in that way. And what a perfect world if I could tell AI to back off or stop using that credential or go away for a while. Or that, device postures. Right? How do I kick one out? Posture like new agents, small product, doing things. But they like stuff like that. Are they a derived credential? Are they a delegated identity? We're gonna have to come up with whole new terms. This is gonna keep the people in the identity business employed for long.
Lucky.
Like you folks in device management, I don't know, like AI, you know, DDM, but identity, that's gold.
I have a question. Do you see any, I'm assuming this is pertinent for people in the room, but maybe this is a dumb question, but. And I don't mean it to be like insulting. Do you see any admin level application of this? Or is this always gonna be at the like level of integrating products with one another and IVP integration?
Would you use it at the admin level?
I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I mean, I think it's a cogent thought. Right? I mean, you just look at what's coming in here. At an admin level, I could see it. I mean, you want to know if compliance. You know,
right, I guess I mean building something,
would you build something?
do a thing in your environment.
If you wanted to have your own world compliance service, right? You know, if you wanted to get signals, here's an example. You run the NIST, the max security tools, right? They don't have service. There's nowhere for them to go, right? And even if your compliance does change with that, if you don't have a management service that's looking for those specific signals, how would you do it? Right? So this is potentially a little bit of glue here, that if one of the pieces you're trying to talk to understands SSF, you don't have to build everything from scratch. You're just building one side, whatever it's to the Mac security compliance project. And then you could go SSF to Okta. And you wouldn't have to worry about the Okta APIs and getting an Okta credential all the time or putting in an Okta API somewhere. Instead, you'd have this ability to just fire things. That I really happy to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason why it couldn't. So could every device be a transmitter? I mean, DNS is pretty much false. Yeah, I mean, your biggest problem with the transmitters is you are going to need them to have a fairly standard URL for just identity purposes. How do you set up the stream? Well, the receiver sometimes phones into a known URL and then you establish it. Now, if you own both sides, you could certainly turn that in. And then how would you validate a set coming in from the device? You would have to, you have a crap load of JMKS files out or something like that. So I don't know that that would be the best way, but you can certainly build your own tooling to send a signal to a web service, and then that web service just fire. I mean, if you're in Jamf, you can do this with extension attribute, right? Is that extension attribute solve everything? True. So you have that there, and you'd be able to put those things in.
Is there any limit to what kind of systems? So I mean, there's Slack thing, right? I don't know if you think about it, or not, if you can picture roles, like roles could be consuming things. So what's like the ambition spec?
So, and that is, I think, covered in the spec. So the question is, like, is there any limitations to the schema? And I really don't think there is. I think there is some conversation in here about what the types of events are, but I do believe, designed to send two sides, but I think you can make up whatever you want. So if you owned both sides of the equation, we're cool enough to have other people listen. I'll let you judge about that. You could potentially create some events. I mean, and I'm at a loss, like we went through some of these here, like I don't know what it would be, like Slack changing, I could see some of that. But they're just JSON blobs, right? So whatever you can put into JSON, you can put into here. Dude, you could send DDM over sets.
Yeah,
Wait a minute, crossing the streams. Yeah, I mean, JSON is a JSON. Cool. All right. I think we're done. Oh, we're fine. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here. I'm excited to be here towards the beginning and towards the end.
Yeah.
Of Not the end.
Not the,
Yeah, wait a minute. That's not what I meant to say.
oh yeah, everybody, this is the last one we're ever doing. We're done.
He said not to say that. So yeah, congrats on the 10 years. And very much thanks for having me. Thank you for me. Not to be confused with a mom.
Yeah,
All right.
we're really bad at naming things.
Yeah, we are.
And so we end up with a lot of things that are called the same, which is always fun.
Yeah.
Well, there's only so many letters in the alphabet.
I got you. I brought up another beer there for you, but you were missing with that, so. Well. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Thank you to Joel, Brock, Fleet, Jamf, who am I forgetting? Mac Admins Foundation, Apple for, making us making us want to have these meetings. Not have to, want to have these meetings. So let's just say that. What's that? What was that? Yeah, that too. So, no, I mean, thank you for everybody coming. Again, we would not be here without everybody's support, just coming to see us and hang out and just chit chat. So, we're gonna probably do another social meetup, maybe July. I don't know exactly because next month is WWDC, so we might actually do another virtual event. And the month after that is PSU. If you're going to PSU, we usually do that big picture at the end. So if you're in the area, if you're going to PSU, please stop by. And just keep watching the Philly channel on Slack, our website, whatever, Mastodon, all that other fun stuff. You'll find out where we're doing events and whatever. Anybody from the Philly group want to say anything before I cut off this and then we probably go and get a cocktail or something like that?
Shot the Phillies game at PSC last year.
There you go.
The channel, so present to anybody who wants that.
There you go. Let's do. Anybody?
Yeah, actually, real quick question.
Yes.
Pronunciations of all those abbreviations, stuff like that. How are they affected by the Philly accent?
So the question is,
I won't even attempt.
how are the pronunciations of the acronyms affected by the Philly accent?
They're all done.
Yeah, they're all Johns. If you don't know what it is, it's just a John, that's fine. Or it's just the, it's this John there, so. Yeah, that's fair. So, anybody in the room, if you want to come by, I have some stickers for things. And like Tom mentioned, if you show off your little math card, maybe you get a special sticker. So, or something else. So, cool.
Limited edition.
Eat more pizza, take some beer, or drink some beer and have some soda. And thank you so much for coming. We'll see you again. I didn't highlight it. That's I have more for it.